Okay, so on our table, discussion started and then came to an abrupt halt. And the reason it came to an abrupt halt was because we suddenly realized that we're talking about this thing called cloud in the future, but does everyone understand what cloud is today? What is the definition of cloud? So we broke it down into 4 main approaches, which other tables I'm glad have been to hear have been using these definitions as well. First of all, private cloud, a cloud which is just for your own enterprise. Community cloud, where a group of similar enterprises get together so that they can achieve economies of scale and benefits for their own group. Public cloud, which is typically used for software as a service, like Salesforce.com. And then hybrid cloud, which is the cloud model, which is a combination of private and public, that people like McKinsey and Gartner are always telling us, actually, this is the area where you get the biggest improvement, the biggest benefit for your organization. But then someone said, hold on a second, hybrid is not the answer if we're looking 2 or 3 or 5 years down the line. We should be looking at a future thing, which is like an evolution of public cloud and private cloud together. Now, we didn't have a name for this, so I'm calling it the intercloud. But this is the future that we discussed. So how can we be sure that there is going to be some change and it's going to keep evolving? Well, I can give an example internally from EMC's point of view. EMC as an organization is absolutely obsessed with cloud computing. We have a particular program internally, which is an R&D program, which is specifically for cloud computing. And this year, we're spending $900 million on that one R&D program. Okay, so I'm convinced it's definitely going to mature. We just got to think about what's it going to mature into. Some things need to be overcome, and our prediction is, from our group table, that security will be the main area. People have a lot more trust in the cloud operating model, and by getting rid of those security concerns, people will be more ready to move their data into the cloud. Then they'll overcome the challenge of linking to real-time and manufacturing systems. There are some systems that are never going to be able to move away from the factory. If you're or an organization, for example, that's manufacturing pills and tablets, you need systems that control the manufacturing process, and you can't just pick up all of those systems and move them directly to the cloud. Also, we're predicting that regulation will catch up with the technology. Already we've seen improvements to the PCI standard, which says if you want to operate PCI in a 100% virtualized manner, you can do that now. Other standards such as DPA, those kind of legal aspects will catch up with the cloud technology. We're saying in the future that the cloud approach will be completely transparent, not only to the IT department, but to the business people as well, because in theory, you shouldn't have to care what the technology is that's delivering this, even from the cloud point of view. So you'll be able to do 100% self-service. In theory, this will make it harder to attack. That was a debatable point. Does it make it harder to attack or more difficult to manage or easier to attack because everything's in the cloud? And a key thing about the future transparency is it'll be much easier to understand the costs and the pricing models around it. So what do we have to be careful of in the future? Well, we were saying that actually you have to be careful of just branding everything as cloud, because surely not everything is cloud. Previously, we had the iPad, the iPhone, the i-this, the i-that. Ironically, if you heard yesterday's announcement, there's now the iCloud. So there's a combination of cloud everything, everything. So thanks, Apple, for that one. We're also looking at the ability to purchase cloud services in a much more granular way, so a different way to consume them. So for example, instead of saying, I want to move everything into the cloud, we'll say, I want to have all my data in the cloud, but I only want it to be in Germany and Australia, but not in the UK. So a sort of tick box approach to the aspects you pick from the menu. And then the key thing that we said at the end here is portability. If you've invested a lot in building a private cloud in-house capability, then eventually you want to migrate those services out into a service provider's public cloud. Okay, once it's in the public cloud, you don't want to leave it at that service provider. In the future, people will take the running services and move them into a different service provider. Now, if rates change and that service provider changes its capability and it's more effective to cost effectively move services back into the first service provider. You want to have that flexibility so services, whilst they're running with no loss of service, can move between different service providers in the public cloud arena. And then ultimately, if you want to, you can bring them back in-house again. But in theory, eventually, it may be that you don't have any IT environment in-house at all. That's it from me. Thank you very much.